A desolate wilderness. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rechakwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. A desolate wilderness. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 1. Thus saith Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, behold, I will raise up against Babylon. Now, when you see Babylon in the Holy Scriptures, thousands of years ago, there was a such place called Babylon. We had, Babylon in the book of Genesis, which was, the Tower of Babel that, the nations were attempting to build in order to reach up into the heavens. And of course, that was destroyed. The Lord sent an angel to destroy that shit. And then you have the other Babylonians, which were taken down by the Persian and the Medes. Now the Babylonians that was taken down by the Persian and the Medes, that was a great city. It was a great city that had, many different idols in it. Basically, you could call it the city of confusion. It was a city that was under heavy idol worship. It was a city that was into the philosophies of many other nations. So ancient Babylon was like, a cesspool of confusion. You had a philosophy on this, a philosophy on that, an ideology on this, an ideology on that. You had a fable on this, a fable on that. You had this false god, you had that false god, you had this idol, that idol. So ancient Babylon, was a cesspool of confusion. And even during that time, our people were heavy into idol worship. And a matter of fact, Nebuchadnezzar himself had his own idol, which he had set up, which Israel was to worship at the sound of the flute and, the other musical instruments. So when you look at today's time, you can compare ancient Babylon to modern day. You can compare ancient Babylon to America, which America has taken on the same customs and ideology that ancient Babylon has taken on. If you look at America today, America is a cesspool of confusion because America carries the philosophies of many other of these other nations. The philosophies of the Chinese and Japanese people, the philosophies of Arabs, the philosophies of Africans, the philosophies of Japanese people, the philosophies of Hawaiians, the philosophies of so-called white people. So, somebody might delve into this, so-called philosophy, like, Jake might call himself a Muslim, but then you might have another Jake who calls himself a Moor, but then you might have another Jake who's into Buddhism, who believes that his false god, which is Buddha, is the god of life and prosperity. Then you got this idol here and that idol there, and this country is filled with all kinds of false gods and false idols. You know, even Jake himself is worshipped as an idol. You know, these 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 that the average Jake out here look up to these rap stars and movie stars, you know, as idols. In a matter of fact, they even have a show called American Idol. So this country is just one big cesspool of confusion. You got one Jake that's into Christianity. You got another Jake that's into, you know, Our Lady of Peace. You got another Jake who believe in the Trinity. You know, even amongst these false Israelite groups like IUIC, ISUPK, GOCC, HOY, HODC, FOPI, House of Israel, you know, the House of Jacob, and so forth. Jake just don't know what to believe in. But according to the Holy Scriptures, there is one truth and one power. Okay, that one power is Yahweh. That one truth is Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is the truth. And the truth can only be found in the Holy Scriptures. Okay? You know, I mean, you got the book of Gilgamesh that talks about how they believe the earth was framed. And, you know, like, and one thing all these different philosophies and ideologies, you know, have in common, you know, they all denounce Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai and the existence of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. You know, that's why, you know, starting with our apostles down to our elders, you know, they tell us not to delve into these other books, man, because you'll end up confused. So America is just one big pot of confusion. You know, people can't tell their foot from their ass. So what am I saying here? America is modern day Babylon. So thus saith Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. That destroying wind is what? That's the nuclear fire. Because when you look at the explosion of a nuclear missile, it literally looks like a destroying wind. Because the moment a nuclear missile explodes, especially like if you like, there's videos on YouTube's of nuclear bombs going off, but you know, like them testing nuclear missiles, and you can hear heavy wind blowing in the background. So the radiation, the heat, the fire that's going to come through and sweep these buildings away, you know, these different cities and these different states away, that's the destroying wind, the explosion from nuclear warheads, which will be carried by intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I will send unto Babylon fanners, okay, that shall fan her and empty her land. Because what happens when you take a fan to a flame? The fire spreads. Not only do the fire spreads quicker, the fire becomes more intense. And that's what's going to happen. The nuclear rain is going to empty the land of Babylon. Okay? And Russia is not the only country with intercontinental ballistic missiles. China has intercontinental ballistic missiles. Iran has intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as North Korea and NATO. For in the day of trouble, okay, they shall be against her round about. Okay, against him that bendeth, let the archer, who's the archer? The people at the military stations that are responsible for pushing the button and shooting off these different nuclear missiles, which are weapons of mass destruction. Okay? Let the archer bend his bow. The bow is the silos in which the nuclear missiles sit in, the intercontinental ballistic missiles sit in. Against him that lifteth himself up in the brigadine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her host. Okay, so hey, the armies of America is going to be destroyed. Make bright the Jeremiah 51 verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Okay, the Lord have raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. Now, when I earlier I mentioned the ancient Persian and Medes, how they were the ones responsible for taking down the ancient Babylonians. Well, today, your modern day Persian, your modern day Medes, today in today's time, your modern day Medes will be the Russians, because the Lord is going to use the Russians. The Lord is raising up the Russians to take down America. Okay? So the Lord have raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes, the Lord is dealing with Putin, and even as I speak, the Lord is working on the Heavenly Father and the Son. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is working on the mind of Putin, like it tells you in the book of Ezekiel, thou shalt think an evil thought, Ezekiel 38. Putin's going to think an evil thought, and that evil thought is going to be shooting nuclear missiles on America. For his device, what device? The arrows, which are the intercontinental ballistic missiles, is against Babylon to destroy it. Now we know that regular arrows cannot destroy a city, okay? So the arrows is talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is going to bring about the destruction of Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Now, let's go from there to Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 14. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows. So the arrows is talking about the intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay? So shoot at her, spare no intercontinental ballistic missiles, for she have sinned against the Lord. Right? These devils have been proud against Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So the Lord is going to reduce this kingdom to ashes. And he's going to do it through these other nations. Shout against her round about. She have given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Take vengeance upon her, as she have done, do unto her. Right, because what have America done? They have went around bombing other nations, oppressing them for not, agreeing or following along with their philosophies or ideologies. So you know what's going to happen? The Lord's going to allow these other nations to bomb America. Okay, hold on. Let's see. So this is second Esdras. And I'll just start at verse 12 here. Okay, second Esdras, chapter 16, verse 12. The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof, okay, of the sea ariseth with the waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also, before the Lord and before the glory of his power. verse 13. Okay. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shooteth are sharp. The arrows are talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss. Like it tells you in Joel the second chapter, okay? They shall not break their ranks. Okay? When they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Now, when it says be shot into the ends of the world, that's talking about being shot from one country to another. So I brought the scripture out to prove that the arrows are not talking about regular arrows. It's talking about the arrows are talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles. And this proves it. Okay? Who the hell can shoot a regular arrow from one country to another or into the ends of the world? You can't even create a machine that can shoot that far, that can shoot a regular arrow that far. Now, when it says be shot into the ends of the world, that's talking about a country shooting a intercontinental or a ICBM, which is an acronym for intercontinental ballistic missile, up into the air, into the ozone layer of the Earth, which then travels through the ozone layer of the Earth. And once it reaches its destination, it comes down, the tip of the nuclear warhead or the tip of the capsule comes off and multiple nuclear warheads comes out of that capsule and rains down on the country. And those nuclear warheads explode. Isaiah chapter. I'll just start at 4. So Isaiah chapter 34, verse 4. Okay. And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. Because when you look at the explosion when you look at a nuclear explosion from a nuclear bomb, it literally looks like a mushroom cloud. When you look at a mushroom cloud from outer space, it literally looks like the sky is being rolled together as a scroll. And I always like to use this analogy. When you look at a condom, right? When you're trying to put a condom on, you have to roll it out like a scroll before you put it on. Well, when you look at a mushroom cloud from so-called space, it literally looks like the sky is rolling together, like a scroll. Because a scroll don't always have to be from, there's just one side of the paper and then there's another side of the paper and you just roll them out together flat. A scroll can also be circular. Okay? Where you roll it out. So a mushroom cloud, when you look at a nuclear explosion from a nuclear bomb from so-called space, it literally looks like the sky is rolling together like a scroll. Okay, and all their host shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. For the sword of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which that sword is what? The intercontinental ballistic missiles, which will be carrying multiple nuclear warheads. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. What does it mean by bathed in heaven? Does that mean that, there's going to be an intercontinental ballistic missile, in the kingdom of heaven, and it's just going to be, swimming and nah, man. That's talking about when the intercontinental ballistic missile is shot off, it goes up into the firmament, below the Van Ander radiation belt, because nothing can get past, that radiation belt of the Earth, So it goes up far up above the clouds, you know, basically where the satellites are at, probably above the satellites, but it goes way up there to where the satellites are at, and it literally travels around the globe to their destination. And once they get to their destination, you know, they slow down and the nuclear warheads stop and they start to fall down towards their destination. Okay. And when they're falling down towards their destination, the the caps the capsules from the intercontinental ballistic missile comes off and multiple nuclear warheads come out. They spread out and they fall to their destination and they explode. Okay? For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. Who's Idumea? That's talking about so-called white people. And a matter of fact, Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom, which so-called white people, they descend from Edom. They are the true descendants of Edom. Okay? Edom, who is also known as Esau in the Holy Scriptures. And upon the people of my curse to judgment. Right, because going back to the book of Genesis, Cain was cursed. Okay? He was cursed. Why? Because he murdered his brother Abel. Now, let's go from there to Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17. And I'll just start at 19. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 19. And Babylon, which is America, the glory of kingdoms, because all these kingdoms, followed after the manner of America in some way, form, or fashion. Now, well, I won't say all kingdoms, but the majority of kingdoms have followed after the manners of America. The beauty of the Chaldees today will be known as the Illuminati. You see, back then, the ancient Chaldeans, they were a bunch of witches and warlocks and sorcerers who would perform rituals and human sacrifices unto their false gods. Well, the Illuminati does that today. So the modern day Chaldeans will be the Illuminati. So the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? Because I'll just say this. The Lord sent his angels to destroy that place. Because normally when you see this word God here, it's Elohim, which means the powers. And the angels, they are the powers. They are gods. They're angels, So, the Lord sent his angels to destroy ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. So just like ancient Sodom and Gomorrah, it shall never be inhabited. You don't see nobody inhabiting ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. So after the post-nuclear destruction of America, it shall never be inhabited. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Right, because these Arabs, they love coming over here to America, setting up shops just so they can make a profit and go back to their country. Well, they're not going to be able to do that no more once this country is destroyed by nuclear fire during World War III. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Okay? But wild beasts of the desert, now check this out. This is talking about after the nuclear fire of America is quenched out. After the nuclear fire is quenched out from America, America's going to be a desert. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there. So there's going to be desert creatures living here on the soils of America. And their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there. Okay? And satyrs shall dance there. So these are all desert-like creatures that can survive in desert-like conditions. So there's going to be desert-like creatures living here. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, her days shall not be prolonged. Okay? And her time is near to come. Now let's go from there to the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. Okay? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Okay, hold on. I don't think that's the one I'm looking for. You see. Okay, here it is. Salakia, Revelation chapter 18, verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and it's become the habitation of devils. The devils is talking about the lizards, okay, or lizard-like creatures, and the hold of every foul spirit, okay. Again, desert-like creatures, ostriches, you know, because after Babylon falls and is destroyed by nuclear fire, it's going to become a desert. So it's going to become the inhabitation of desert-like creatures, such as, like lizards and lizard-like creatures, and owls and satyrs and, dragons, which dragons are just, they fall under the lizard family, but or the reptilian, the reptile family, or the I'll just say lizard family. So dragon is just a derivative of a lizard, but has become the habitation of devils, which is talking about lizards. So there's also going to be snakes living in this land after it's destroyed, because America is going to be a desert, right? Well, we know that snakes are known to live in desert-like conditions, such as rattlesnakes, poisonous snakes, venomous snakes. Scorpions are going to be living here. Ostriches, cockatrices, they can also live in desert-like conditions. And so it has become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Okay, and we know that ostriches are unclean birds. Okay, vultures are unclean birds. Okay, eagles are unclean birds. Hawks are unclean birds. So there's going to be all kinds of unclean birds living here. Cockatrices are unclean birds. So that's what this country is going to come to. Okay? For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Yeah, all kind of countries come over here to profit. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. Okay? And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Right. Come up out of the ways of America, Because this country is all about confusion, Don't get caught up in the confusion that America has to offer. Because if you get dragged right along into the dust storm of this country, what are you going to be taken by it? You're going to be taken by this country when the Lord, when it's time for this country to receive its nuclear judgment, which is going to be the nuclear destruction. Okay. Now, let's go from there to the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 3. I'll just start at 3. Joel chapter 2, verse 3. It says, a fire devoureth before them. Now, this is also talking about the nuclear destruction, right? Because imagine a intercontinental ballistic missile, exploding in a beautiful garden. What do you think is going to be left? What do you think is going to be left next? A desolate wilderness. Joel 2 verse 3. A fire devoureth before the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and behind them, now this is talking about after the the intercontinental ballistic missile explodes. Okay? A fire devoureth before them. So after the intercontinental ballistic missiles release multiple nuclear warheads, and those nuclear warheads explode, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. Okay, the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, right? Because there's going to be power and in these nuclear bombs, and as horsemen, so they shall run. Okay, yeah, because these intercontinental ballistic missiles, they're going to be coming in droves. Okay, like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains. Right. Have you ever heard the sound of a missile traveling through the air? It literally sounds like a super loud whistle. Like, I mean, it's much louder than that, but you get what I'm saying. It says, like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains, shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble. Okay? As a strong people set in battle array. Before their face, the people shall be much afraid. Right. When people look up in the sky and they see these intercontinental ballistic missiles, they're going to be terrified because they're not going to know because they know that they're going to explode, and when they explode, it basically is over. It's over. They basically they're gonna get wiped out. So before their faces, people shall be much afraid. When people see these intercontinental ballistic missiles up in the air, there's going to be a great panic and great terror. People are going to be running. They're going to be panicking. They're going to be stampeding over one another. All faces shall shall gather blackness. Okay. The intercontinental ballistic missiles shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. So you're not going to hear about an intercontinental ballistic missile hitting each other, okay? Because the spirit of the Lord is going to be within those intercontinental ballistic missiles. And each intercontinental ballistic missile is going to have their own set destination. Neither shall one thrust another, you see? So these intercontinental ballistic missiles, they're not going to strike one another. They're not going to fly into one another. And they're not going to break their ranks. Okay. But like I said earlier, each intercontinental ballistic missile, which is going to carry multiple nuclear warheads in them, is going to they're going to have their own set destination, you know. And America is going to be the main target of this nuclear war, as well as the land of Israel, where the gutter rats are dwelling. So neither shall the intercontinental ballistic missiles thrust one another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. Okay? They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. Right, because the scriptures speak about how the day of the Lord come as a thief in the night. So watch as well as pray. Okay? Okay. Okay, it says the earth shall quake before them. Right. Because like it tells you in Isaiah 13, verse 13, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. Right? So the impact from the intercontinental ballistic missiles is going to be so powerful that the earth is literally going to move out of its place. Okay? So it says the earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble. Okay? Meaning the earth shall tremble, because when the intercontinental ballistic missile explodes, the sound alone is enough to make your ears bleed and bust out your eardrums. The sound from an intercontinental ballistic missile exploding is powerful enough to shatter windows. It's powerful enough to cause houses to crumble. So, and just imagine that 200 million, you know, missiles exploding on this planet. Well, releasing nuclear warheads exploding on this planet. The Earth is going to be way out of orbit. Man, that's going to be a terrible time, man. Okay? The sun and the moon shall be dark. Why is the sun and the moon going to be dark? Because of all the debris from the intercontinental or from the mushroom clouds from the intercontinental ballistic missiles blocking out the sky. Okay, so the sun and the moon shall be darkened, meaning that the sky is going to be blocked out from the sun and the moon. The sky is going to be blocked out from the sun and the moon shining on this place, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Why? Because the sky is going to be blocked out from the mushroom clouds and all the debris from the explosions of all those nuclear bombs exploding on the planet. So let's go from there to, let's see, is it Revelation 11? Let me just look for it real quick. Revelation chapter 11. I'll just start at 1. So it's not this one. Bear with me for one moment. It's the last scripture I'm going to bring out. No, it's not this. It's probably in the ninth chapter, I perceive. Let me close that out too. So I can always just look it up here then. Let's see, Bible. And the number of them was 200,000. So it was Revelation, the ninth chapter. It's spirit, because I was something in my head was saying Revelation 9, Revelation 9. All right, so Revelation chapter 9, verse 8, it says, well, I just started 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. Okay, it says, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth was as the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. Right. Well, I mean, if you look at the capsules of these intercontinental ballistic missiles, they are made from iron, okay? Because iron has more durability against fire than metal does. That's why they use iron, because when the intercontinental ballistic missile is blasting off into the sky, there's all kind of intense heat that is going on the inside of that engine that basically makes the entire body of that capsule hot. So what happens is that they use iron and other material to make it to where, you know, basically the body is not melting from the flames that is being used to propel the intercontinental ballistic missile. Um, that's the from they're using iron to protect the body of the capsule of the intercontinental ballistic missile from the fire that is being used to propel it up into the air. Okay, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running into battle. Like I said before, missiles have a really loud sound when shot off. It sounds like a really loud missile sound when being shut off. Okay, and they had tails like unto scorpions. Right, because when you see a missile traveling through the sky, what do you see? You see a trail of smoke being left behind, you know? So it says, and they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Okay? And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which was the angel of the bottomless pit. Okay, so let's skip down. Angels were loosed. Okay, and the 4 angels were loosed. Let me see. So let's skip down to verse 15 now. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month, and a year to slay the third part of men. Okay? And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, which when you properly calculate this is 200 million. And I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in division, and them that sat upon them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. Right. What happens if someone sees a lion in real life? They become terrified, right? Because everyone knows that lions are vicious animals. Okay. And a lion's first instinct when they see somebody is to devour them. And out of their mouths issue fire and smoke and brimstone. And that's talking about the intercontinental ballistic missiles when they explode. Okay? By these was the third part of men killed by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. Okay? For their power was in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, okay, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So, Lord's will, you were edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Shalom is on to the next one.